I'm going to be going over how I made my very first 120 strip huge fabric rug and what I learned and any tips I kind of learned along the way. So I made this rug the same way I make all my rugs, 2.5 wide fabric and 2.25 wide batting, and I sewed all the strips together and then sewed them into these fabric tubes here, and then I have it in my bucket and I'm all ready to start, and I'm going to be starting it. I'm doing a round rug. There's two different ways I like to start mine. Basically just a little U shape here and coil it around just like this, and then I'm just going to sew it all around there and making sure that my fabric is laying nice together and flat. So that is the first way. And then the second way is folding it into these little triangles like I do with my oval rugs. So I start always with my round ones with a 1.5 inch start, and then I make these triangle flaps, and then the path is over the flaps is where I sew down the middle over the second flap and then around in a coiled shape to make your rug pattern there. I usually start with the second method with the folded triangles, but this time I wanted to do the little U shape. I wanted to mention that you never want your fabric tube here to be tight. You want it to have a little bit of a slack when you're sewing it, because otherwise you'll definitely get it where it curls up into a bowl that's way too tight. You need it to be loose. And you can see I don't use pins as much anymore, but you can see how the fabric is bunching up on that inside curve as I'm going around. The further your rug grows, the less you need to do because it's less of a sharp curve that fabric tube needs. If you see a little puffing up like this, it's all right. It flattens out. It's material. It will do that. Now, if you see it looking like that, you do not want your rug to be like that, especially if you can't make it go down like that, because that's how you want it to look. But if it's super tight and it's up like a bowl, you're going to have to redo it. I know it stinks, but you definitely want to start off right off the beginning, checking as you go and making sure everything is laying nice and smoothly, that fabric's bunching up and being where it needs to, laying next to it. Just letting the machine do the work. You can see how I'm bunching it up in there like that. Use pins, iron if you need to. I've been doing this for a while now, so I don't need to use pins or iron really much anymore. Especially when you're working with different fabrics, you'll notice that they're a lot easier to work with. As you can see here, my rug is getting a little bit bigger and I'm not having to bunch up as more, but I'm still having that slack in my fabric tube here as I'm sewing it because you don't want it to be tight. I am using a walking foot. I find that really helps with these fabric rugs and helping it and having the machine help glide it through, because you don't want to be pushing on your fabric as you make it. And here you can see from a different angle, you can see that walking foot there working nice and hard for me. And I'm just using my right hand to glide that fabric tube in, making sure that it's going nicely. And then my left hand is holding on to the fabric tube and having it so there's some slack so that it's not tugging as it's coming out of my bucket there. And I'm also using my left hand to just slightly glide the rug around as I'm sewing it. I think it really helps to have a nice flat surface up to your machine with doing these. As you can see, I moved my tables around a little bit and used a box to kind of give it more stability and surface area to make my rug flat. Same here, I'm doing the same thing. And once it gets about to this size, I find that it's a little bit harder to work with. It's getting a lot heavier. It's getting harder to move. And your goal is to move that fabric through your machine evenly. So those zigzag stitches are catching on both sides and it's even, because when that tension's off, that's when you start getting the waves and it starts getting all wonky. And even though you feel like you're not pushing or pulling or doing whatever, just the weight alone of that rug is going to mess with that tension and how it's feeding in. So far, it's looking good, but this is about the time where I started having a little bit of trouble. As I'm making my rugs, I'm always checking and making sure everything's looking good, because you don't want to wait till you're way far down and then you realize, oh darn, I have these waves or it's bowling or it's doing something funky, because sometimes it is difficult to see if you get going and you're just, paying attention to right in front of your sewing machine where you're sewing it together. So I'm always checking on the other side where it's coming out, seeing what's happening and how the fabric is laying. it's fabric, so generally if it has a little bit of a movement, it's fine. But when you start seeing things like this, it's going to be alarming. That's what we call the waving. Now, if you can put your hand over it and it lays flat, that's fine. But you can see I'm doing that and it's still wavy. So that right there indicates that you're going to have a problem. So I knew right away I'm going to have to rip this back up to where it starts and see how it goes back here too. I couldn't get that to lay flat with my hand, so I'm going to rip all the way back with my seam ripper. Well, that one, yeah, that right there kind of did lay a little flat, but I'm still going to go back all the way there because you can still see kind of like a little bit of a wave. You know, you want to make sure. During this time, I took the chance to clean out underneath because making these, there is a ton of lint and everything works more smoothly when your machine is nice and clean. So I wanted to get a couple different angles to see how it was how the fabric was moving and what was happening with it. So right on the other side where I'm sewing, you can see the fabric and how it is what we call waving. It's giving those curves and it's not laying flat. I'm going through pushing with my hand and it would still flop up a little. Here you can really see it. You see how that fabric is up like that? That is what you do not want. So that's why it's important to keep a watch as you're sewing it, because immediately when you see that start happening, even with your 40 count rugs, you're going to want to stop and check it out, see what's happening, see if you can just press it down a little or if it's going to keep flopping up. And as you can see, it was flopping up. I was exhausted. I was not happy. I was expecting to fly through this rug and just get it done. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh, I got this. I can do it, right? No, it was like, no, not happening. So I was not happy. I had to rip it out yet again and start over. I really wanted to be able to sew my rug like this. It just looks so cool, having it nice and big out like that, and it's so visually appealing. But unfortunately, this method just was not working for me. I tried everything that everybody suggested. I put a Lazy Susan under it. I put parchment paper, boxes, bags, things like that to help it kind of glide, you know. But no matter what I was doing with the weight of the rug and with my setup, I just could not get it to go evenly through. You can see right after my machine, that bump right there with the fabric, it was not happy. It did not like me. It might be my poor little machine. I don't know. But the whole setup just wasn't working out for me. And I know some people said like over on the edge to have more of a length for a table, but like it just wasn't working even before it was hanging off the edge like that. So I went back to folding it in half. What I do usually with my smaller rugs too, even because it just feels better when you get used to how it feels and stuff. It feels better having that rug in half for me. So I put it in half, and I was checking and making sure that I wasn't going to get the waves, and I'm adjusting it like this to even out the weight of the rug as I'm doing it. And it was working all right, but as it was starting to get even bigger, because I'm doing 120 strips, which is just huge. It's a 5-foot rug. I still was noticing that it just was having a hard time moving through evenly. And I wanted to have the best chance here making my rug as possible. So I decided what I was going to do was fold it in half again. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did after that. So after I did this is just showing you how it looks folded in half once, left to right, up to my machine. I even went in and tried ironing it at times just to see if I could get it to lay a little flat because I did not want those waves and I really didn't want to rip it out again, but I was trying everything. So here I am showing you how I folded it. I folded it in half like this, and I kind of made it so that it wasn't like completely in half and then in half again like that. I don't know how to explain things sometimes. But I basically made like this little pizza-shaped slice here, a quarter of my rug. And then I worked in that section of it until I got to the end and just made sure that it was laying how I wanted it to. And it was just kind of going slow. Here it kind of was still kind of doing it. So I just had to like adjust it. And when I pull it down like that, it kind of just helps so the bulk of the weight wasn't way up in the top and a little bit more evenly distributed. I had to do a lot of playing around and moving and fidgeting in it a little bit, that whole bulk of it, just to get it so that it, like, see right there, I was just adjusting it, trying to figure out how to lay it, so that the material, the big bulk of the rug on the left, and then my strip on my right, were going evenly through my machine. And this was just a little section that I was working with here. This is what I did, little sections like that. And you can see from up here, that's what I would do. And then I would unfold it when I got down to the bottom there, and then I'd readjust it up here like that, and then fold it in half again. This was just working for me. I just couldn't get the other way to work for me. So I just went back to folding it, and I found that this was helpful. And I just worked on it in little sections, and it felt like it took forever. It was killing me because I like to whip through my rugs. I really do at this stage. So it just felt like forever. But I mean, really, I was working on a massive rug, and it was my first time doing it. And I just troubleshooted and found what works for me. Sometimes you just have to do that, especially working with these rugs. They can be so tricky sometimes. And I swear it can totally just be your fabric, or just the day your fabric just doesn't want to work with you. I had taken everyone's advice. I was super tired that day. I came back refreshed, and then it was just working a little bit more smoothly the next day when I started working on it. And I tried again, and I did this folding method, and it kind of just worked, and it came together nicely, and it ended up actually laying flat. After I started doing this, I did not need to rip it out again. It was working fine. So another thing also, I forgot to mention that what I tried, I noticed when my rug was getting heavier about halfway through that my stitches were starting to get a little more tight. I didn't change anything. It was just that it was heavier, so it was moving through my machine slower with a drag. So what I did was I increased my zigzag stitch a little bit, the length, so that way it kind of ended up working out the same to look like how my stitches were. So I hope that kind of makes sense. That's just what I did because I just noticed there was like a change with it, and I wanted it to look consistent with my stitches. So here again is another angle showing you as I've been working on it. It's kind of been working. I got the rhythm of it. I got how to fold it and how to manage it, and it's going through a lot more smoothly. You can see it's definitely flat going on the other side of the machine as I'm working it through. So I was really happy that I got it to work because I was starting to get really nervous I wasn't going to figure it out. I think the thing that I've learned the most with sewing these rugs is that you just have to have patience, and you have to accept that things come up with sewing, and that sometimes you have to rip out, because when I first started, I was very stubborn and was like, I'm never ripping out, right? Which I quickly learned that, like, that's not a good attitude to have, and that, I need to accept that, like, there's going to be mistakes, and that's fine, and I can redo them, and I can always adjust and try again, and it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? These rugs do take a lot of time. When I first started, a 40 strip rug took me 8 hours over the course of many days. But now that I've been making them, I've made over 50 rugs and tons of like coasters and table pieces. Why can't I think of it? Centerpieces, table runners, and projects like that. Now when I'm making a 40 strip rug, it maybe takes me 3 to 4 hours if everything goes smoothly. So, I mean, I really learned how to cut my time in half and just do a little things, and I work a little bit faster. So as you get doing these, it does just come a little bit more easily as with anything you do in life. So if you're having frustrating times in the beginning and you're just starting out, I want you to know that it's all right. Just keep at it. I promise you'll end up getting it. And I hope that like my tips and my videos help. And I really try to show like even the things that like, don't work out perfectly, like, the waves of this rug and things like that, just so that you know that like I'm just like all of you guys, just making rugs over here too, enjoying the craft, and then I happen to just be sharing the process along the way with all of you. I'm really grateful that that's something that I can do, and I really enjoy being able to create and show everybody how I do it. Over 10 years ago, I started a coupon blog. My mama taught me, and I taught hundreds of people how to save money for their families, and I forgot how much I really enjoyed teaching and doing stuff like that. So this new sewing journey that I've been on has really been wonderful, and I'm just really thankful and happy about it. I would have never thought I would be over here making YouTube videos and tutorials and written instructions on how to sew. I started off painting, with Christie's Handmade Creations and doing things like that. And I mean, I've tried all sorts of different crafts, but now sewing. So it's just really, it's been a journey. I love it. So now I'm going to show you how I do the end of my rug. Sorry about the off topic chatting. So when I get to the bottom of my rug, I'm just going to do like a tapered end here. I'm going to cut up at an angle. The more of an angle you cut up here, the more tapered it will be. And all that's going to do is just kind of taper that ending off so it's not like a blunt ending, because these are, like a rectangular square ending. So I just go ahead and do that. Now you can do it where you cut the fabric before you make that end tubing, and so that way you can fold the fabric in and you have a more finished edge. That works too. This is just what I did starting off. It was really super easy. It works well. Just make sure that your stitches are nice and secure, getting on both sides. I haven't had a problem with my rugs with this method. I have washed my rugs many times with my endings like this, and they have been intact. There's no batting missing, anything like that. So, but you need to find what works for you. I'm just showing you ways that I have learned how to do these on my own, and I hope they help you so that you can continue to make some rugs as well. So here's what it looks like. It has a nice tapered ending, so it blends in with the rest of the rug. So I like that, how that looks. There's definitely other ways you can end it too, and add cute little tags and things like that. Do whatever you want. Have fun with it, you guys? So here it is. It is my huge rug, 120 strips. It is a little over 5 feet wide. So it is bigger than I am tall, because I am 5'1". And this thing is massive. I am super happy about it because it lays nice and flat, even though I know it's kind of difficult to see here. It's all flumpy like that, but it does lay flat, and I'm so happy.